Hello everyone and welcome to my mini review of Uncharted The Lost Legacy. Now, I have reviewed all the previous Uncharted games with the exception of the Golden Abyss because I never owned a PS Vita. So I've done reviews for Uncharted 1, 2, 3 and 4. This game was released about a year after Uncharted 4, and it was basically released as kind of an expansion really, or I suppose you could call it an extended DLC really, but it's essentially a spin-off game of the official series, and it doesn't focus on Nathan Drake. This time we actually focus on two side characters from the original games, Chloe Fraser and Nadine Ross, and the two of them team up to basically go on this expedition to find this Indian artifact called the Tusk of Ganesh. So we get a kind of Indian style Uncharted adventure this time, and they're going up against this guy called Asav, who wants to trade it for military purposes. He wants to trade it for a bomb. And along the way, they also come across Sam Drake as well. He gets involved in the adventure. And basically, the story is that. That's all the story is. And if you know the Uncharted games, then you basically know what to expect. This is pretty much the same as Uncharted 4. The gameplay really hasn't changed at all. It doesn't really add anything to what we've already known. I mean, what more could they have added, really, to Uncharted? I don't think the story is anything amazing. I honestly don't think it's amazing. But what I do really like is the writing. I do think that the character development for Chloe and Nadine is really good. I think for Chloe, particularly, we get to learn a bit more about her past. We get to learn about her dad and how her dad got involved in this expedition, and how that is affecting her emotionally, and the risks she has taken to do this as well. And with Nadine, we get to kind of learn about how she left Shoreline and what she's doing to kind of rebuild her reputation. And the two of them do clash quite a bit. I mean, they're very different people. I mean, Nadine is kind of a badass, a very serious sort of mercenary. Chloe's kind of a sort of not happy-go-lucky, but kind of she's a free spirit, I guess you could say. She's a bit more charming and a bit more fun, should we say. But I think they bring out the best in each other, which is really interesting. And I think, especially Nadine, because Nadine learns to kind of smile, and she actually appreciates her as a friend. I mean, she calls her Fraser for most of the game. Obviously, Chloe Fraser, that's her name. But she doesn't start calling her Chloe until later on in the game, which I find fun. The gameplay really hasn't changed. It's the same as Uncharted 4. If you've played Uncharted 4, then you pretty much know what you're doing. You don't need a tutorial. It's climbing, shooting, running, killing the bad guys. That's pretty much it. There is a couple of times when you fight Asav, the boss. You only fight him twice in the game. He's not that difficult to take down, and most of the time you're fighting him with Nadine. You actually play as Chloe for the entire game, which is kind of interesting. I will say though, after playing as Nathan Drake for 4 games, it is very nice to play as someone else and to experience the story from someone else's point of view. So it's nice to actually return to Chloe as well, because we've seen Chloe in the previous games. She is in Uncharted 2 and 3. We didn't get to know too much about Chloe before. I mean, in Uncharted 2, she was kind of a double agent really. She was kind of changing sides a lot, and she was very deceptive. And in Uncharted 3, she kind of softened out and she was a bit more on the good side, and she was working with Nate quite a lot. In this game, we get to see the most honest depiction of Chloe that we have done in the series, and I really like Chloe as a character. I think she's a very three-dimensional character. But before, she was obviously putting on a farce because she was in the treasure hunting game, and she's been in this game for quite a long time. As she says, I think at one point, it's very hard to get out of this game when you're in it. And yeah, that's true. And I really like the character development. I think it really, really does work. One thing I will say is I think the villain is very disappointing. Asav, he's just this kind of Indian military guy. There's not a lot to his character, and you don't really see him that much in the game. He appears at the beginning and then towards the end. And you only come across him twice. He's really not that threatening. I thought he's probably one of the weakest Uncharted villains, to be quite honest. He's not bad, but he's just kind of nothing. He's a nothing villain for me. Also, the inclusion of Sam Drake. I mean, I like Sam Drake, and I thought he was a great asset to the 4th game and kind of essential to Uncharted 4. In this game, though, I don't really see the point of him. I mean, they write him in to say that Chloe actually asked for his help because he was an expert on all this stuff, but then they bring him in at the end of the game. So he only comes in for like the third act of the game, so there's not much point really having him in there. I mean, it's nice to see him, don't get me wrong, and obviously Troy Baker returns to play Sam, but I don't think the game really elevates from having him in it very much. I think the game was fine just to kind of focus on Chloe and Nadine. I don't think Sam was really necessary to the plot. Most of the game he's been captured anyway, so yeah. I do like the relationship between Chloe and Nadine because they have that fallout over Sam when Chloe has lied to her because she knows that Nadine and Sam have a history and they obviously didn't get along in Uncharted 4. So Chloe has lied about that to get Nadine to help her. And of course Nadine flips her shit and runs off. So there's some really good drama between the two of them, and that's what keeps the game going for me. The gameplay is monotonous and repetitive, just like the previous Uncharted games. I do think the puzzles in this one are really good. Some of them can be a little tricky, but they're not too bad when you get the hang of them. So it's classic Uncharted. I mean, there's not much else to it. It's classic, what you would expect. It doesn't do anything to elevate the series. It doesn't do anything to change the series. The graphics are really good. It's fine. It's adequate, but it didn't really impress me as much as the other ones. I mean, it's also much too short. It's a game that's much too short. It's only about 10 chapters long, about half the length of a normal game. So I would have actually waited and spent a bit more time on this one, and then released it maybe a couple of years down the line, because then I think you could have made something pretty damn epic. And I mean, if the Uncharted series continues, I'd be more than happy to see someone else in the lead, like Sam or Chloe or Nadine. But and yeah, I would love to see a sequel to this one. I'd like to see Chloe and Nadine, working together again, or maybe some other characters from Uncharted working together again. But of course, Nathan Drake's story has finished with Uncharted 4. The first 4 games were all about him, and now he's settled down. So yeah, there's not much I can say about The Lost Legacy. It's fine. I mean, that's why I'm doing this as an audio review, because there really isn't a lot to talk about. There's some beautiful design in the game, I will say that. The graphics and the locations and all of the temples and everything are designed so well. It really does look good, but I find myself not wanting to really play this one again. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's short, maybe it's because it didn't wow me as much as the other ones. I mean, it looks pretty cinematic, but it doesn't feel as cinematic as the previous games. There's also a driving level which really does drag on quite a bit. Not to the extent of the Uncharted 4 one, perhaps, but you're going through all these towers, kind of similar to Uncharted 4, but not as many. I do find that driving level to be kind of tedious, but the second half of the game is great. It's much better than the first half. The first half of the game was just to kind of get you back into the swing of things, but the second half of the game is more balls to the wall action. But I like when the game stops and gives you those heartfelt character moments. But I mean, overall, The Lost Legacy, I think it's a mixed bag. I enjoy the game, but I wouldn't rush to play it again. I think now that I've experienced it, I'm happy with it. But I'm happy to stick to the first 4 Uncharted games. If they do make any more Uncharted games, or I'm presuming they'll be on PS5, then if I ever get a PS5, I'll definitely check them out. But I'd like them to do another full-length Uncharted game if they are going to continue. But if not, I'm quite happy for us to have had these games as they are. And yeah, so that's all for me. So I'm going to probably score Uncharted The Lost Legacy. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. It's a decent game. I think it's a decent game, but it's probably the weakest Uncharted game for me. Even though the first one probably controls a bit rougher, but the first one is a feature-length adventure, and I think the first one for me was a bit more fun than this. But The Lost Legacy is a good, say, companion piece to Uncharted 4. I guess it is kind of a sequel because it does take place after Uncharted 4, but it's not a feature-length So it's not technically Uncharted 5. It's not labelled on the case as Uncharted 5. But I definitely had to play it because I was a big fan of the first 4 games. So yeah, it's worth playing. If you're a fan of Uncharted, it's worth playing. But don't expect anything as grand or as epic as the first 4 games. Well, yeah, certainly not as 2, 3 and 4. But yeah. So that's my review of The Lost Legacy. Please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this game. And if you haven't played it, are you going to play it? Would you like to see the Uncharted series continue on PS5? And if so, in what capacity? Let's get a discussion going, people. So, yes. Also, I will be playing The Last of Us Part 2. Yay! I was very lucky to actually get hold of a copy of the game, which is on its way. So bear with me. Maybe in a couple of months or so I might be able to review it, because apparently The Last of Us 2 is about 25 hours long, and that's just a campaign. So wow, I've got to make sure that I've actually got enough time to play it and take it all in. So you'll have to bear with me, but I am going to review The Last of Us Part 2. So stay tuned for that. I'll try and review some more video games, but I'm not really a huge gamer. If there's something I'm interested in, then I'll play it, but if not, then yeah. Anyway, that's my review of Uncharted The Lost Legacy. Thank you very much all for watching and listening. I'm Mr. Tarnus11. See you soon. Bye for now.